Alright, boys and girls, today's lesson is lesson 3-1. We're going to talk about units, customary units of length. Okay, so the first thing I did is I cut out a little ruler of that you're going to have on page 159, but you don't have to go to it just yet. I want to talk about this ruler. It's a broken ruler, no big deal. The thing about a ruler is a ruler always starts at 0. Okay, unless it's broken. Notice there's a little edge on the outside. That is not where it starts. Okay, sometimes there'll be an edge on the outside. Always line it up to where it shows 0. Okay, sometimes the 0 will be right at the edge. Sometimes there'll be a little extra chunk. That extra chunk is not included. So make sure, especially if you're cutting something, that little tiny space can mean a whole lot. So this ruler is in 4 inches. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4 inches. Okay. Now, if you were to look at this, each unit of 0 to 1, 1 to 2, each unit is broken into 4 pieces. So that should tell you that it's 1/4, 2/4, or a half, 3/4, and then there's the whole. Okay. There's 2 ways you could do this. You can continue and say this is 4/4, and then 5/4. 6/4, 7/4, and this would be 8/4. But I really don't want to do that. I want to show you guys the right way to do it. Because when carpenters are building stuff and they're cutting things, they don't say 10/4 or 11/4. What they say is 1 and 1/4. Okay? Because once you get to that whole number, use that as a whole number. And then start to go with the fractionals. So you have 1 and 1/4, 1 and 2/4, 1 and 3/4, 2. 2 and 1/4, 2 and 2/4, 2 and 3/4, 3. 3 and 1/4, 3 and 2/4, 3 3/4, 4. Okay, so when you're measuring stuff and you want to round it up, or say it's close to, if you were to measure something that was this long, you would say it's pretty close to 1 inch. Okay, because there's our 1. Remember, I started at the 0. Okay, don't be tricked, because if I did something like this, all right, how long is that? Some of you might be like, well, let's see, it's close to 2, but I'm not starting at 0. So really, you would have to take it and maybe move it or something, or slide it over. But really, you can't get a true measurement from that. So an actual measurement for this first line that I made would really be really close to 3/4. Okay? If I were to extend on this line to right to this spot, it would be 1 and 1/2, or 2/4, however you want to put it. Okay? So this is your a quick refresher of using a ruler. So let's move to the first page. I wrote on the ruler. Why did I do that? So turn to the first page, page 159. It says circle length of units and fractions of units to show the length of the line segment. So I'm going to actually do all these for you, because I think if I do all these for you, it's going to help you out just as much as you do them yourself. But you need to make sure you pay attention. Okay, the first one shows you the lines. Remember, it starts at 0. That's the first thing I want to see. I want to make sure it starts at 0, and it goes this far. Okay, it says circle the length of units and fractions. Okay, so we have 1 unit, 2 units, 3 units, and a half units. So 3 and a half, or 3 and 2/4, however you want to do it. 3 and a half inches. Okay. The next one, we have 0 to 1. That's a whole unit, 1 whole unit. 1 to 2 is a whole unit, 2 whole units. And then we have 3/4 of another unit. So we have 2 wholes and 3/4. Because look at 1, 2, 3/4 inches. Next one is a smaller one. 0 to 1 is 1 unit. And then we have 1/4. So 1 and 1/4 inches. Okay, I actually want you to do number 4 on your own. And I'm going to do number 5, but do number 4 on your own real quick. Alright, so hopefully you said 0 to 1 is 1 unit, 1 to 2 is 2 units, and a 1/4. So 2 1/4 inches. The next one, it's simple, except it's starting at 4 inches, okay? It doesn't mean that it's 4 inches to start with. It means that the ruler's broken at the 4 inches. So because it's broken at the 4 inches, you still just start counting 1, 2, 3. So 4 to 5 would be 1, 2, 3 3/4. 3 3/4 inches. Okay, so just because it starts at 4 doesn't mean, oh, it must be 4 inches. Because actually 4 is considered the 0 here because the ruler's broken. And it doesn't mean you can't measure with a broken ruler. You can absolutely measure with a broken ruler. It's just that you have to understand where you're starting from. And number 6, why is this ruler wrong? Well, this should be pretty easy. See, everything has to be separated equally. 0 to 1 separated equally, 0 to 2 is separated equally. Then I don't know what this is. This is kind of a mess. This is a mess. So why is the ruler wrong? Because it's not equally spread out. Okay, it's not equally separated. Okay, so I'm going to push this aside. I didn't realize the time, so I want to kind of get through some of this. Okay, so with number 7 and 8, it says estimate the length of each line segment, okay, in inches. Then measure it to the nearest ½ inch. Okay, so at this point I want you to go over to the little cubbies over there and grab a ruler, okay? And it says estimate the length. So pause it, go grab the ruler, and come back. All right, so this is kind of a tough one. I think I'm just going to go over it with you briefly because it's hard for me to pull up a ruler and have it be exact, but actually I could now. I could stretch this to make sure 1 inch is exact. Oh, Mr. Winkler, good thinking. All right, so there's my ruler. Too bad I wrote all over it, but okay, estimate the length of each line segment in inches, then measure it to the nearest ½ inch. Okay, so knowing that this is an inch up here, okay, that tells me what an inch would be. I can see this is about 1, 2, I'm going to say its estimate's 3 inches. And then to measure it exactly, I'm going to grab my ruler, slide it up, and I'm going to line up the 0 with the end here. And then I'm going to go all the way over to see where it stops at. Okay? So notice I have 1, 2, 3, and pretty much 3/4 inches. I did something wrong here. I made that a little too small. No, not like that. I'll make this, okay, I don't want that to go smaller. I'll just go a little bit bigger. Okay, that looks perfect, okay. Okay, so my lining it up isn't the greatest right now, but when you use your ruler, you should, man, I am having a heck of a time right now. There we go. I'm just going to get this out of the way. When you use your ruler, it should be really close to 3½ inches. Okay, that should be the actual. Okay, number 8, your estimate. Just by looking at it, I'm going to say, because I know it's a little more than that one, I'm going to go, my estimate's 4 inches. And then my actual on that, after I measure it, will be 4 inches. So I nailed that one. Okay, next one, number 9. Estimate the length of each. And notice we rounded to the nearest ½ centimeter. So I guess I can bring this up again to show you rounding to the nearest ½ centimeter. Round to the nearest ½ centimeter. You know how to round. Okay, when you round up, you normally go to the place value of 1. Okay, or 10 or 100, whatever we decide to do. In this case, we have single place values of 1, 2, 3, 4. So, when we round to the nearest half, we're rounding to this spot. These spots, okay? These are the halves. I know this is the hardest thing for students to understand sometimes, but a whole is also a half because it's 2 halves. Okay, 2 halves make a whole. Okay, here's 1/2, 1/2. Here's a half, here's a half, and technically the whole thing, if you keep going, are halves. Okay, so 0 and then a half, then a 1 is added on another half, and there's a half, 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 half. As long as you go up by halves every time. These little ones, these other fourths, are not halves. So when it says round to the nearest half, it could be a half or a whole. Okay, because that's how you would round it. Okay, if you landed on a whole pizza, you wouldn't say, oh, it's rounded to 1 1/2. No, it's a whole. Okay, a whole is 2 halves, so that falls into the categories of halves. So let me do this one with you really quickly now, because now we're talking about estimating to the nearest 1/4 inch, meaning we will now be estimating to every single line now. Okay? So whatever it's closest to. If it's going a little bit over one, then you go to the next one. If it's closer to the one before it, then you round down a little bit. That's how you estimate, or that's how you round. So number 9, if you guess, I'm going to look based on the one above it. The one above it looks like it's a little more than 4, so I'm going to estimate at 4 inches. And when you measure it, you should get 4 1/4 inches. All right. So the next thing you're going to do is in 10, 11, and 12, you're going to draw a line segment that is 5 inches. So just draw it here, and draw one that's 4.5 inches, and draw one 4 3/4 inches. Okay. So you can use that with with your ruler. You can just guess. I would prefer you do it with your ruler. And then we're going to take some of our data that we gather, and we're going to create a line plot in small group. So this is what we'll be doing in small group. So I want you to make sure you finish 10, 11, 12, and then on 13 do what it asks.